I was in California this week, so I did my observation in Mrs. Schwartz's transitional kindergarten classroom at Washington Charter School Elementary in Palm Desert, California. Transitional kindergarten, for those that do not know, is basically early kindergarten. It's not pre-K, but it's kindergarten for students who are born September through November. And so they are all close to the same age group, and it's just before they can actually go into regular kindergarten. Some students that are in transitional kindergarten can move right up to first grade if they basically test out of kindergarten, but transitional kinder is something that California has been trying to push into elementary schools, which could open up a lot of new jobs for teachers potentially. I'm really glad that I observed in this classroom and at a classroom at such a low level, because transitional kinder is basically the beginning of elementary school, and it is amazing the difference that you can see between students. So teachers really do have to use a lot of differentiation methods throughout the entire day. One thing that I noticed was some of the students could write perfectly. They could write sentences almost. They were already sounding out letters, spelling their name easily first and last. And then there were other students in the same group that could barely even write a normal letter correctly. And some students had great motor skills. They could use scissors perfectly. They could cut on a straight line, where others you could see had difficulty even holding the pencil or holding the scissors. So again, teachers really do have to use different methods for differentiation throughout the entire day, and I got to observe that while I was watching this class. The first thing I looked for when I was observing in this classroom were ways that the environment was differentiated for students that were perhaps English language learners or did not know how to read yet. They're at different levels. So students that needed the differentiation in the environment. And what I noticed was that the classroom had sensory stations set up, which would be very beneficial to those students who learned learned by touching. And then there was also playstations set up, and they were make-believe playstations, which also follows in line with learning by doing. Then there were alphabet and number charts posted everywhere, helping reach those students that are visual learners that need to see to be reminded about their alphabets and numbers. The classroom was filled with bright colors. There were easily accessible bins and materials for students of all sizes so everyone could reach. The teacher had placed the bins at low levels, and the bins were labeled with pictures and labeled with the words of the actual products in the bins. So students of all levels, they could just look at the bin, see the picture. If they don't know how to read, it was easy for them to know what was going to be in the bin. There were also cubbies for each individual child for them to store their items in, and they were easily reachable and at a low level for students of all heights. Mrs. Schwartz differentiated her curriculum and teaching processes for students of different levels. For students that the cool thing is that there's pretty much every kindergartner is almost an English language learner. While they know English, many of them know English in her classroom, they're still all learning how to speak correctly. They're still all learning the words. So that's what's neat. When you get someone that's coming in and they don't know a lot of English, she told me that they really do pick it up so quickly because the entire curriculum is designed to help these students learn basic English anyway. So while I was observing, I noticed that she opened her class with a circle time and some opening routines, some calendar time, and she really got the students involved. They had specific songs that they sang that they learned from, which are really helping those auditory learners. And then she sent them to learning stations later in the day. And the learning stations were designed to meet the needs of every type of learner, kinesthetic, auditory, and visual learners. There were different sensory bins, playtime areas, books and stories and listening center. There were lots of different types of learning stations to really help meet the needs of every student. At the table time, I noticed that her instruction was differentiated for students of different levels and abilities. Some students had practice tracers that had just their first name to practice over and over, while some students were practicing writing full sentences, practicing tracing and writing full sentences. So I did notice a big difference in that. Later when I spoke with her, she also let me know that different students of different levels receive different homework assignments. Some are upgraded to meet higher level needs, while others are simplified to practice the skills that they really need to practice on. While students were participating at the learning centers during that segment of the day, I observed that Mrs. Schwartz pulled individual students over to her desk and tested them on specific things. Some students were tested on readers, and she did differentiate the levels of readers that students were given to take home and practice. They're simple short stories, and they work their way up to longer, more extensive stories that the students read to her. I also observed that she was testing some students in basic letter recognition, counting skills, and number recognition. So this way she was able to individually decipher what each student needed to work on and improve upon. Because each kindergarten student really is at a different level of readiness, I observed the kids during an art project to view the difference in student products and how the teacher differentiates to help students through their process of creating these products. What I've noticed from my observation is that the students are all encouraged to reach the highest level, to make the best product that they possibly can. So I observed during an art project, and the teachers made it easy for students by pouring glue into a bowl and using paintbrushes, so that students that had a hard time squirting the glue out could just paint the glue on. But some students did just use regular glue out of the Elmer's glue bottle. And students that had a hard time cutting, the teacher would occasionally come around and assist them, but she really encouraged them to practice that basic skill on their own. There were very different products that came out of the same assignment to create this pumpkin that I watched them creating. And the students all had basically the same kind of pumpkin, but there were some that were a little more sloppy than others, and the teachers were okay with that because the students are practicing the basic skills of cutting and tracing and drawing and gluing, and while some are better than others, the teachers are just encouraging them to master those basic skills at every level. For students who had a hard time tracing their names or tracing letters or writing in general, the teacher does send home extra practice sheets for homework and discusses with the parents the things that those children need to practice and learn. To conclude, I just want to say that I really did see a lot of specific ways that instruction had to be differentiated in a kindergarten or transitional kindergarten classroom because of the different levels of students. I'm really happy that I actually chose to observe at this low of a level rather than a higher elementary school grade, because now I can see the very specific types of ways that differentiated instruction is important. There are just so many different levels of kindergarten students, and some can do much more than others. So the teacher that I observed really did a great job of helping those students that did need a little extra help by creating different types of opportunities for them to participate. And she did a great job of reaching all types of learners as well, is what I noticed through my observation. So I am very happy that I observed in her classroom, and thank you for watching.